Welcome to 132 Problems Revisiting Mormon Polygamy. I am excited to have this guest. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in the conversation. But Wayne May has been studying Book of Mormon history and geography for decades. I've really stayed away from this to a great extent. I've been curious about it, delved in a little bit here and there, but I haven't made it a directed effort. But things fell together to have Wayne come on to talk to us about his theories and research into the literal history and geography of the Book of Mormon. I wanted to have this conversation so everybody could join in and see what they think of what he presents. So thank you so much for joining us as we take this deep dive into the murky waters of Book of Mormon literal historicity and geography. Welcome to 132 Problems. I am excited to have you here for this conversation with Wayne May, who I am just meeting today for the first time. And I have to let people know just a little of why we're doing this interview, because it's kind of a fun story. So when I went on John Dehlin, I have received some pushback from how I answered John's repeated questions about how I view the Book of Mormon, how I view the literal historicity of it, which kind of goes into the geography and those questions. And my answer was basically that I value the Book of Mormon because of what it teaches me about the gospel of Jesus Christ and coming to Jesus Christ. And so I don't think about the geography and I don't worry about the literal historicity of it. It was my response. That got twisted by some people into claiming that I don't believe in the Book of Mormon, and which is not what I said and not what I intended to say at all. But as a result of some of the memes that have been going around and the claims that people are pushing, I don't think people took that from the interview actually, but since people are now saying that I don't believe in the Book of Mormon, I had two separate people at the exact same time reach out to me to talk to me about Wayne's work. One of my friends came to my house and brought me some of Wayne's magazines and a really neat stone. Oh, I was going to wear it. Maybe I'll go put it on. She brought me a necklace of that's a demonstration of one of Wayne's artifacts, and I forgot to put it on. I'm sorry, Kristen. And then another friend called me on the phone to talk to me about Wayne. And in the mouths of two or three witnesses, right, I also have heard about Wayne from some other people. So I decided that it might be fun to talk to Wayne and let him present. So for anyone that doesn't know, Wayne May works on Book of Mormon geography and focuses on the Heartland model, is my understanding. I'm sure Wayne will tell us a lot more about himself, but I wanted to understand why I'm really looking forward to this conversation, because I haven't gotten very deep into this topic, as I said, because it's not what I feel called to focus on. But I did want to have Wayne on to present a portion. I know he can't present everything, but to present a portion of his work just for everybody's consideration, so everyone can look at it and see what they think. So Wayne, thank you so much for coming. And I would love to hear you tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, tell us what we need to know, and then I'm sure we'll just jump into your presentation.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. It's I always like to go and meet new people, and you got a big following, and it's nice to meet a lot of new folks. People always ask, is geography important? And I say, well, let me answer it this way. Why do people go to Jerusalem? Why do people go to Egypt? Why do they go to Athens? These are people that really like history. And especially if you're going to Jerusalem, you want to walk where Jesus walked and see a Galilee. So, geography is important. It has a connection. So to me, in North America, for me, this is my connection to the Book of Mormon. And that's what we're going to see today. And I can't cover everything. Truthfully, Michelle, if we want to do everything, you're going to have me here about 10 times. Because everything I talk about, after about every third slide, then there's a whole new window going off here to the right. And there's so much stuff. So anyway, I'm going to give you a good smattering today. But how I got into this, I want you to know that I've had an arrowhead in my pocket since 5th grade.
Okay.
Growing up in Wisconsin, there's stuff here all over. I mean, mounds, Native Americans. My first girlfriend, 1st grade, was an Ojibwa gal. And I have a picture of her and I together. I mean, my first girlfriend. So yeah, and the guy that cut my hair, it was her grandfather. He was my barber. You know, and so anyway, my little town of Boyceville, where I grew up in northern Wisconsin, it was really unusual because you could start at one end of town. Main Street is only 3 blocks long. You walk by the drugstore and you'd hear Slovakian, Czechos, Hungarian people. They're chattering. And I go a few more feet into the grocery store, and Gilbertson was there, and he was Norwegian. He's speaking Norwegian, you see? And then what the real kicker was, then, of course, I get English at the far end, but once in a while, a guy named Sam the Russian would come in from from Connorsville, and him and his wife and friends, they're all speaking Russian. I mean, this is wild. In this little town of 600 people, I got all this stuff going on. So, but anyway, let me tell you, 5th grade, my friends and I were just sitting up in a sand quarry in the summertime, and we would, like gophers, we'd dig in the bank and just dig a hole going in and come out, just tunneling. We're only maybe about 10 inches of topsoil, but we're under that in the sand gravel. We're digging tunnels. We were back in there. We made a room this one year, and sitting there, of course, there's gravel on the sides of the sand wall, and I think it was Cliff or Don, I don't remember which one, but he saw this neat white stone. He just started circling the stone with his finger. And the stone got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then finally we saw this black jagged line going across this white stone. And the guy said, gosh, what is that? And I said, man, you know, if I didn't know any better, it looks like a guy's skull. You know, where your skull comes together, the 3 zigzaggy things up there.
The plates.
So we went at it horizontally. By golly, we dug right into a Native American burial at 5th grade. I mean, what an adventure. I mean, I've never sacrilegiously hurt a grave, but 5th grade, I'm sorry, folks, we just kept going, and we dug up almost an entire skeleton, and we had pottery, and we had points. I mean, what an adventure, you know? And so we put all the stuff in a box. We take it down to Cliff's house. They had a big storage room next to the garage. We're going to put it in there in the garage, right? Well, it comes out, Mom didn't want it there. And so Dad was there. He popped up. Dad said, hey, put it in the trunk of the car, and I'll talk to Mother later. We'll work it out. Don't worry about it. So what do we put in the trunk of Dad's car? Well, little did we know, we wouldn't know that 5th grade, but Cliff's mom and dad were on the edge of divorce.
Okay.
And that night they had a big fight, and Dad decided to leave. I mean, this was a long coming process. Sad, but that's the story. But anyway, that night when Dad left, he drove off.
Oh, no.
And we never saw our box at Indiana again. Gone. My first artifacts, gone. So I like to tell that story. It's just, you know, it's who, but, and I've got a lot of neat stuff that's happened growing up as a kid in Wisconsin. But anyway, I want you to know that I'd gone to summer session, and I did 2 semesters, full year of college, and then it was in my fall semester of my sophomore year. And I started school, and about middle of October, something came over me, and I got homesick. I'm a sophomore in college, and I got homesick, and I felt I had to go home. Something was pulling me to go home. Home for me is 4.5 hours north. I was down the southern part of Wisconsin. Home's up north. And so I just packed up my stuff and I dropped out of school. I mean, it's crazy.
Wow.
I strolled into for breakfast. I got there in time for breakfast, and Mom and Dad told what's happened. And Mom and Dad, they're just very, you know, the level head. They said, okay, well, go get a job. You know, nobody's upset. They said, let's go get a job. You're not going to sit home. You got to go get a job. So that's fine. So I got a job downtown Menominee, Wisconsin. And Menominee, by the way, is a home of also one of our 9 state universities. It's called Stout, and a lot of LDS people come there. But anyway, I'm working in a men's store, and now this is late October, early November. We get a hard freeze that year. No snow because the temperature went too low. You know, it gets too low down to, like, you know, 0. And it doesn't snow anymore. It just freezes. Well, we had 2 missionaries from the South that were there, and they had never seen frozen lakes before. It was their P day, and they're on the ice down there sliding around, you know, having a good time. And one of the guys slipped and did the splits, and he ripped out the whole crotch of his trousers. So here these guys come in. It's about 10 below outside. And, of course, the other elder's laughing, and the guy that wrecked his pants, he's got his coat tied around his waist, you know. But I can see these white things flapping between his legs, you know. And I figured, well, it's long john underwear, right? No big deal. So they came in, and we had a nice visit. I fixed them up, got them a pair of pants, and they never said one word about the church.
Oh, wow.
Not
Okay.
one word. But you see, I have a problem that Brother Joseph had. I always ask a question. So as they're going out the door, I said, hey guys, how come you both have the same first name of Elder? I have never heard anybody named Elder. Well, then they were on me like bees on honey, And then I went and saw a film called Man's Search for Happiness. And I got to tell you, when I saw that film, I was hooked. Now, I was very careful. It took me 2.5 years to get baptized, but I was dropping my bad habits. I was positioning myself to get baptized, and I had focus. I do it at the end of my senior year to get away from, as I was in a fraternity, I want to get away from all the guys, But anyway, I stood my ground. I mean, I quit drinking. I was a bartender. I quit tending bar, and I quit drinking beer, and I had to get these little things at a time. And finally, in 70, I got baptized. So I've been in the church since 1970, and my wife is my first convert.
Oh, good job.
We were dating pretty heavily, and before we got engaged, I told her straight out that I was going to make a major change in my life, and I described this wild church out in Utah, So anyway, she liked what she heard. It just worked out. And she took the lessons, and I did not see her for 60 days. I said, I don't want to be around. You got to make up your own mind. This is a big decision, and changing your life. And I don't know what your parents are going to say, blah, blah, blah. That's a big change to do that. But anyway, she did. And here we are. I've been in the church now, I don't know, 54, 55 years, 7 kids, 22 grandkids, 3 boys. They've all served missions. And all my kids are active. So I'm very blessed. We're very, very blessed.
Wow.
My kids in high school, they're the only LDS people in school. I mean,
yeah. So you're still in Wisconsin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're still here. I'm 1,400 miles from you right now talking.
Wow.
And, I'm in Wisconsin. So yeah, it's been great. It's been great. I have no questions. However, now I want to tell you why I do what I do. Okay. Early on, archaeology has always been a love for me, but I want to make people understand that my joining the church had nothing to do with archaeology. I had a terrific 4 or 5 spiritual experiences that if Heavenly Father said to me, he said, Wayne, I'm going to give you one wish. What I would say is, I want all 7 of my kids to have the same experience that you gave me.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, plunge forward. Now, I had several people early on. I ran it in the church. I mean, the church says it's in Central America. It's in Central America. I didn't care. I was focused on North America. I studied 2 groups of people, Adina and Hopewell. And I didn't really apply them toward Book of Mormon. I was just looking at straight archaeology, and because the Book of Mormon took place in Central America and in South America, and that's fine. Now,
okay.
All these years I'm growing in the gospel. 18 years have passed since I got baptized. Now, my wife and I, our temple district is, guess where? Salt Lake City, 1,400 miles one way. Wow. We didn't get out here very often, but when we did, I was in the bookstores. My wife was in the food stores, stores. Because all those stores now are gone downtown Salt Lake, which I really miss them. It's too bad. So anyway, that's what we did. She threw food in the back seat, and I threw books. And when they got up to the back window, we felt, well, it's time to go home, because I couldn't get this stuff in Wisconsin. We couldn't do it. So we're just trying to do what's right. But anyway, we did have a temple then by that time in Chicago. We made one last trip out to Utah, and that was in 1989. 18 years had passed. I've been in the church. And I picked up a book. And I'm going to just advance this here real quick through here. We're going to go right through the intro here. Yeah, right there. I picked up this book called The Personal Writings of Joseph Smith. Now, little did I know, you jump to our day, what's in here is now coming out in all the new journals on Joseph. Okay? But a lot of that good stuff is in here.
Okay.
So we took times driving home. My wife now, she's driving a car, and I'm going through this book because I want to know more about Joseph. I've been studying, the Doctrine and Covenants and the Book of Mormon and the Bible, but I wanted to know about this guy, Joseph. I mean, this guy, this guy's special. And that's why I bought this book. So I'm in this book, and I'm reading along, and man, I came across something that just really, really blew me away. He writes a letter on June 4 to Emma. This is the Zion's Camp March. He leaves Kirtland, walks all the way to Missouri, as you can see on this slide, and he says, "We arrived this morning on the banks of the Mississippi. We left the eastern part of the state of Ohio, wandering over the plains of the Nephites, recounting occasionally the history of the Book of Mormon, roving over the mounds of that once beloved people of the Lord, picking up their skulls and bones as proof of its divine authenticity. Joseph Smith Jr." Well, I got to tell you, when I read this, my Hopewell and Adena in this part of the country collided with the Maya in Central America. I mean, it was an explosion. I was just, it was like, this is wild. And I sat there for a minute, and of course, a cliche for the day. I looked over at my wife, and I didn't give her any warning. I just said, "Houston, we got a problem." Or she had no idea what I was talking about, but I said, "Explain later." But this was my start.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
I just said, why isn't this in the ensign? Why aren't we talking about this? Because all I hear about is Maya, 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 Maya. That's all I hear. And so, when I first started this, I don't know, about 20 years ago, putting this out in front of people that I talked to in groups of the church, and I asked for a show of hands, no one
had seen it. Wow.
Nobody's seen this. So, how is that possible? Anyway, so that's what's happening. Let me
That's fascinating. I'll let you take those slides back. I'm curious, in all of the work that you've been doing over these decades, have you ever seen a statement from Joseph Smith about South or Central Mesoamerica? Because didn't Joseph believe it was? Oh yeah. Have you seen statements that he said?
I wasn't going to go there because it's practically a talk all by itself.
Okay. You don't.
He does. He does. Okay. We'll get back to that one. Okay.
Okay.
Let me just press on here. So my point is, where Joseph had covered on the Zion's Camp March, this is the entire area for my Hopewell studies.
Okay.
This is the heartland of the eastern half of our country. And I don't know, you can't see, but underneath the letter E of Hopewell, there's a yellow spot. That's Nauvoo. Can you see that little yellow sticking out there?
A little bit. Yeah.
That's Nauvoo. And then Zion's Camp, and the red star. Everybody guesses the red star. You know what that is, right? That's where I live.
Okay, that's right above you. Wow. Okay.
So anyway, that's where I live. So that's where I'm at right now. So anyway, this is really important. The mound builder culture, as you look at it, we got a group called the Late Archaic, which is Adena. They're all together. Notice the timeline. And then there's the Hopewell group, 550 BC to 400 AD. Sound familiar?
That's the time period of the Book of Mormon, right? So you already, you had already studied these ancient peoples because you'd been studying archaeology.
And I'm just getting flooded. I mean, the book just came alive for me. I can't. So our Jaredites will come out of this group.
Okay.
Mulekites, Nephites, Lamites are all going to come out of this group. And of course, here we have this post-Book of Mormon group. But they come much later. We got this 500-year gap. And in the Book of Mormon, what happens? Well, the victors at Comorland, they continue the fight. And it says it's really bad here for a long time. They're fighting. And that's at 400 AD and forward. Well, what's happening in Europe at 400 AD? It's called the Dark Ages. The same thing is happening on both continents. We have a Dark Ages here in our Book of Mormon, and people just aren't focusing on that. But it's the same. The Lord said, the day will come when you'll search to and fro in the land to find the word of the Lord, but you can't find it because I'm taking it away.
So that's after the end of the Book of Mormon.
That is right. 400
Okay.
AD. Bingo. Okay.
And we don't have, this is all new to me. So forgive me if I ask too many questions.
Please. Yeah.
So we already, I know nothing about North American geography. I mean, archaeology. Okay. So it had already been discovered that there were these different peoples, these different civilizations, and that gap was already there. And so you're applying. Okay. This is really interesting. All right.
I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm just going to say, hey, in 1989, when I got back home from my Utah trip, I called Dr. John Sorensen, the head guy for the farms group that supports Maya country. Okay. I called probably 2 or 3 times a year. I quit calling in 1992. He would never take my call.
Ah,
I got to be good friends with his secretary.
okay.
And I kept telling her, I said, look, all I want is have Dr. Sorensen send out one of his aides, his TAs. Just send 1 or 2 out here. Let me run them around for a week in Ohio and Indiana. I just want you to see what's out here. Now, I wasn't trying to replace Central America. I'm just saying we got a lot of stuff here that supports the Book of Mormon. Please come out and look. When come. And again, I was not here to challenge or replace Central America. I was saying we got a lot of stuff out here that matches really well for the Book of Mormon. So come on out and I will show it to you. That's all. That's it. I got no response. Nada. So 92, I'd had experience now in the magazine publishing world. And by 93, I jumped in what's called Ancient American Magazine, which I've been publishing for 34 years. 34 years. Yeah. And out of that comes all non-members telling me their finds throughout North America that I'm publishing in my magazine. And out of those stories coming in, I could glean out all the stuff that's really very complementary to the Book of Mormon to support Joseph's statement of walking across the plains of the Nephites. I'm saying, wow, this is crazy. It's all here. And again, this quick one here. Here's all the things that are common that we find. Great Lakes to Florida, Kansas, New York. I mean, it's a big area, and it covers that whole area that I showed you before. All right. Now, here's the timeline. This is the Book of Mormon timeline. 600 BC, it begins, of course, they make the journey into the Arabian Peninsula. 385 is the last war in New York. It's 385. 421, Moroni says farewell. Okay, so this is Hopewell Archaeology, North America. I mean, how close do you have to get, people? How close? I mean, this has been ignored. It's been ignored by our boys out in the anthropology department. I don't know what the problem is. They're just so stuck on Central America. I said, you guys need to come up here and take a look. But here's the best news, which I've really already explained. Non-Mormon academics are doing the work for us. So you can't say, I'm making this up.
That is great. So let me ask, so with the Hopewell, because the Nephites would have had to land somewhere. So do you see them making their way across until they develop this civilization? Because it does seem like, does the Hopewell start in 550 BC as a big civilization, or is it just starting to be built? How, you know what I mean? Talk me through that beginning timeline.
I can answer all that for you.
Okay. And if it's too much and I need to just
it's okay. It's okay. You're good. You're good. Just hold on. Here is the heartland of America. All the red dots, that's where our people are from Book of Mormon.
Okay.
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 You cross the Mississippi and this trails off really quick. The west, everything's in the east.
Okay.
Between the Mississippi and the Appalachian Mountains.
So is this the limited geography model? Like I've heard.
No.
You don't do the limited. You say it's the whole continent.
Okay. The limited geography model will focus on Lake Erie and Lake Ontario only.
Okay.
And the reason they do that, out of respect for our professors at BYU, at the anthropology department, archaeology, they have decided the Yucatan Peninsula is the heart of Book of Mormon lands, and that circle makes about 1,000 square mile area. And so the guys from North America, before my time, took that little circle and dropped it on Erie and Ontario because Hill Cumorah is up there for the plates. But you see, up there, it starts about 200 AD. It doesn't work. If you want to get everything for Hopewell, you got to take what you're looking at right here.
Okay.
You got to expand. And that's where I come in. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I'm the dirt guy. I'm out digging in the dirt. So here we go. Now, this is going to answer a lot of questions for you, what you just asked me. Okay. First of all, we're told that Lehi lands at 30 degrees latitude south. And that was all made up and proposed by Frederick G. Williams, who was Joseph Smith's scribe. Now, he wrote this on the back of Doctrine and Covenants. I can't remember. It's 105 or 107. It's one of the two. And because Joseph's 105 D&C or 107 is on one side, on the back side, he writes his story about landing at 30 degrees latitude. And of course, it was taken for a long time that Joseph did both. And now that's been proven. It has not. I mean, BYU figured that out. They no, it wasn't Joseph. That was the scribe just wrote that out. But he picked that for a reason, because I believe he actually heard Joseph Smith say 30 degrees latitude. But Joseph didn't say south, didn't say north, because the brethren at that time are looking at what's called the Western Hemisphere model. Narrow neck is Panama. North America's land north, South America's land south. They took the whole hemisphere. And I got to tell you, that doesn't work. You can easily wipe that out. But anyway, that's what happened. That's what happened. So now,
can you just really quickly, for people that think that works, like, because I think as a little girl, I thought that, right?
Well, sure.
But when you start realizing that when you're living in Panama, it's not a narrow neck. It doesn't appear that way. They didn't have large geographic models. Is that kind of, I mean, that was my realization. Yeah, it's too big.
You can't walk across there in a day and a half.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out for anyone that's still in their mind thinks, because that's kind of can be the default that you grow up thinking, but no, it doesn't work.
I want to tell you right now, we can't get to everything in this presentation.
Yeah.
Everything we talk about, so you're getting all these side arrow, which is okay. You're thinking that's good. That's good. I like that. So anyway, when they figured out that this 30 degrees wasn't going to work, they moved it up to the Isthmus of Darien, and just everything just got moved. Something they just picked it out of the air.
Okay.
They have no archaeological backing. That's my point. So what are you guys doing? But anyway, that's another story. So Hill Cumorah, they're claiming that Hill Cumorah is, to make Central America work, you got to have another Cumorah. See, this is why 2 Cumorah guys or a 1 Cumorah guy. And I'm a 1 Cumorah guy. I'm New York only, period. But these guys, they've got 4 hills picked out in Mexico and Yucatan as possibilities for the big battle. 4. So we have a little jingle. And 1 Cumorah, 2 Cumorah, 3 Cumorah, 4. How many more? That's our jingle. But anyway, let me go on.
Okay.
So poor Moroni, 421 or before, he has to carry this, they guess, a 60-pound weight all the way through. And that northern part of Mexico, guys, it is a true desert into Texas. It's rough terrain. But anyway, he has to go all the way up to deposit the plates. He's going to make a big swing to the east. What's he going to do out there? Because he dedicates the Manti Temple. That's well established. And there's good support that he also dedicated to St. George, but I'm not going to go there. But anyway, he ends up in New York.
Let me just ask, I assume those are just by statements from later church leaders that said that. Okay, continue. Okay.
That's correct. Anyway, that's 3,800 miles by foot. I just thought, man, that's pretty tough. So anyway, for me, that's what it is, 421. I think it's the only book. There is no 2 hill Cumorahs. So this is the 2 hill theory that they have been pushing all these years, but I'm a 1 hill guy. So all the stuff below Texas, to me, today means nothing. And that's what I've been talking against since 1993.
Okay.
Western Hemisphere model. Let me just press on. Now, this will help you a lot. Here's North America. That's the Yucatan. That's 1,000 square miles. And the guys that respected the academics, they did the same thing for Erie, Ontario. Okay. There's your limited model. Okay. But there is your big model. If you're going to make the Hopewell work for Ontario and Lake Erie, you got to take the whole banana. You can't cherry pick.
I like that. I agree with you, because you've just addressed 2 of the things that have bothered me about the Book of Mormon geography discussion. Yep. Like I've heard that it was a spiritual transportation of plates, or that, like I've never heard that explained well.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because in the Journal Discourses, if you have the set, volume 19, and I can't give you the page number off the top of my head, but it's in volume 19. You can find it. This is when Oliver and Joseph, it's written how they went to the hill Cumorah to return the plates, and it just says to an angel. We assume it's Moroni, and it probably is, but return the plates, and it says the hill opens up. And they walk inside, and then we see many wagon loads of plates. I mean,
the sword of Laban, they have that there. Laban,
Liahona. So my first question back to the Meso guys were, how did all those plates from Central America get up to New York when he had to carry that little set? And they said, oh, the Lord just transported the whole thing up there.
Right.
And I said, well, you know what? If I was Moroni, I'm going to get a ride or I ain't going.
Well, and do you know who gave us that account? Because I do think
Brigham Young.
It was Brigham Young. Okay, so we don't have anything from Joseph. That was
Volume
Brigham.
19. It's all there.
Okay, all right.
Now, there's a lot more. There's more. Just hang on.
Okay.
So this is called the Hopewell Interaction Sphere. And this is where I work. This is where I find out. Now, because of my reading of Hopewell and everything, I was very focused on the center part of the country. So I've had to go spread out myself to find the things that I find, and I can share today, which I do. Hopewell Mound Builders, that's my guide. These are my Nephites. I don't question it at all, period. And I'm just going to show you some stuff, okay? Two Hill Theory, there it is, bingo, bingo. All right, now, one of the first things we talk about, why is the Book of Mormon always rejected by academics and by just regular people? Well, this is the pat answer I get because of Joseph's first vision. The answer is no, that's wrong. Second best answer I get from a group of LDS is that it's because he got these plates from an angel of God. Nope, wrong.
It's because of the archaeology. It is. It's because of the archaeology. Oh, really?
Here's why academia does not accept the Book of Mormon. And you're going to be surprised.
Okay.
It's so simple. Ancient man could not cross the oceans until Christopher Columbus got here.
Right. Yep. I have heard this.
That's the problem. No maritime technology to cross the oceans. I'm here to tell you that is baloney. There's so much stuff coming out today to show this is totally wrong. The Jaredites got here by boat, Nephites got here, and the Mulekites got here. So right away, they're looking at the Book of Mormon from an academic point of view as they understand archaeology. The Book of Mormon is false, because these guys could not sail here. They don't care about the spiritual aspect. They don't have to. It's already baloney. You see, it's already done. You know, big X. Such a bummer. Well, we got surprises for them. We got surprises. All right. Now, Lehi's first landing is very important, but I'm going to build up to it. I'm not going to show you right away. Okay. But I'm going to show you what I found before I found where it was. All right. Okay. I'm reading in the Book of Mormon, of course. It came to pass, timber was exceedingly scarce in the land northward, and they did send forth much by the way of shipping. Well, shipping out of Zarahemla. How is that possible? These guys are an inland people. All they have is some rivers. Interesting. Shipping. And then we get it again. 100th part of the proceedings of this people, they counted the Lamanites, the Nephites, and their shipping and building of ships. These guys are sailing around North America, waterways. How is that possible? How is that possible? And here it is. These are, as you can see, two sketches of a big Hopewell site called Marietta. Now, the size difference has no difference. But the big one, if you notice, the shaded area, that's elevation. So the river, you see how skinny it is, used to be all the way up to the edge of the banks. Can you appreciate that? I'm going to help you out here in a minute. But so
it's eroded down a lot. Okay.
This, the walkway, it's called a causeway. The water was right up here at the very top at the edge.
Okay.
Right at the top. Okay. Now, here's the buildings. That's the Hopewell structures. That's where they lived. That's the water they had in Book of Mormon times. We're talking 20 to 30 foot change in river depth. In depth. Because these banks are 30 and 50 feet down to the water today. So America was just a myriad of highways for boats. And the Book of Mormon tells us they were shipping out of Zarahemla, taking lumber up into the land north because it had been so badly denuded by the Jaredites. They wanted to build with wood. Now, here's the other one. And this is, of course, same one. And this is today.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is really interesting because someone did just tell me, I was just talking to someone about this interview, and they said, oh, we can't know because the geography was so different, the water, things that were under, but we do know. So the work has been done to say, this is what America would have looked like. This is what this geographical area would have looked like and been like at this period. So that work has been done.
Now,
okay. That's
I'll tell you one
interesting.
of the best things we really have. And I'm going to tell you what the best ones we have. The best ones we find are around the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence Seaway. We
Okay.
find petroglyphs now on these limestone, sandstone cliffs, 10, 15, 30 feet above the water line today. So first time those were looked at, historians were saying, well, the Indians must have rappelled from the top down so they could make all these petroglyphs. They're hanging by a rope or whatever. Now, that's when the water levels were that high. They sat in their canoe and made their petroglyphs. Water's dropped down. Now you got another layer of petroglyphs. Water's dropped down even further. You got a third layer of petroglyphs. People, the
I do have
river's
to say
here.
that makes way more sense.
It's
Yeah.
all about the water. And
Mhm.
that also will play into the Jaredites, which I want to give you a Jaredite presentation someday, because I never thought I'd find what I found for the Jaredites. It's unbelievable. I can tell you where they crossed, and I can show you in the scriptures where it tells you where they crossed, and nobody's picked it up.
Okay.
People I've told, it's fun stuff.
Yeah.
Still the scriptures, they'll help you out. So here we are. That's then. This is today. Let's go on now. 1994. I'm in Pearl River. It's in Missouri. I'm standing on this pile of stones in a guy's farm field. This guy called me up and said, come down. You got to see this weird stuff. I got stones all over and I got holes poked in them. Well, I was all excited. I thought this must be some kind of a collapsed building. So my friend Frank was with me. We're going hole to hole. We're trying to line up and make squares, rectangles, and everything was just crisscross and mishmash. It was just nuts. What are these stones for? And I'm talking, I was on at least 100 stones minimum, and yet there's stones under the stones. And next to it is a big rock face that they're quarrying the stones out of to make, and they're not even shaped.
How big are these stones? Like this big or?
Oh, you'll go hand size to 300 pounds.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Just hang on to that, okay? And this is the real find, and it's too bad it's so eroded away. Every ship in the Mediterranean, they had captain stone or a pilot stone, and it was different. And this is it. You can see it's got a beveled edge all the way around, and it had writing on it. It told who the captain of the ship was, who the pilot was, and maybe it had a prayer on there for safe sailing. Well, this has all been eroded off because of time. I knew what it was as soon as I saw it. It had to do with shipping, but I didn't recognize the stones it was sitting on. That'll come in a little bit.
Okay.
This is the 300 pounder. Now I got to tell you guys, these are not for canoes. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Because what's going to happen, I'm going to find out that these things are anchors. When I stumbled into this in the Mediterranean and found out that they were taking limestone blocks, no particular shape, punching 1, 2, and 3 holes in them and using them for anchors, and this went on for centuries in the Mediterranean. This was their anchors.
Wow.
I'm sitting on back here. This is an anchor. I'm on top of a pile of anchor stones at the
So this is the
stone.
anchor graveyard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here, I didn't know what it was. 1994. Oh, man. That farm day has been turned over into a real estate development. The anchors are all been plowed off. They're gone.
So why would they gather all the anchors into one spot like that, do you think?
Well, it's just because it's the quarry. They're making them there. They're making them.
So they're not discarding them. They're the new ones to sell.
The Mississippi is not down where it is today. It's very close to the Pearl River where these are. It goes up inland. You got the water. So here's online, 3, 1, 2 holers. There's your information, all documented. Okay. So I'm looking around. I started looking everywhere. Lake Superior. Look at the rope cut in the middle.
Yep.
I mean, help me out, people. These guys are sailing. Here's Kentucky. This is Kentucky. Mississippi. Ohio, Kentucky. I forgot which side of the river the guy found it on, okay? But these are all anchors. Florida's got the most, by the way, the most.
That makes sense. So while you're going through these, I do have a couple of questions.
Oh, sure.
Have any other archaeologists paid attention to these? Are there any other theories about what they are?
Nope.
Really?
You know why? Nothing happened in North America till Columbus got here.
Okay. Darn it.
I have to beat that drum because that's the wall that I run into everywhere I go.
The theory.
Now, I go to Smithsonian, I want to see the big skeletons because I know they've got over a couple hundred. You know what they tell me? They don't know where they are. Yeah, we got them, but we don't know where they are.
Okay.
I can't see them.
Okay.
And I'm just giving you tip of the iceberg. I mean, I got 34 years in this crazy stuff. And
Yeah.
anyway, look how big these are. These are in people's yards. And look down at the bottom right, 5006. This guy used them for his address for his house. These are huge.
And so you can tell the size of the ship by the size of the anchor. That
Yes.
okay, yes.
Yes.
That makes sense.
These are
Okay.
not canoes.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
now,
it would sink a canoe because you would have to have it be proportional to the size of the ship. Okay.
place of first landing for Lehi. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show you where Lehi came in, and I can
Okay.
prove it archaeologically.
Okay.
All right. Helaman 610, the land south was called Lehi, and the land north was called Mulek. After the son of Zedekiah, for the Lord brought Mulek into the land north, he brought Lehi into the land south. And I got to tell you, it's not the Western Hemisphere, people. Here we go. Feast on that.
Okay.
Lehi lands at Florida at 30 degrees latitude. Ring a bell?
And that's where you're finding the anchors. That's the right
That's where
latitude.
the anchors are.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, there's a huge quarry sitting right there. Huge. Anyway, I got more ships from Mulek only because in the Book of Mormon it says when Mosiah, many, many years later, finds his way to Zarahemla, the Mulekites are very numerous. They're more numerous than the Nephites. So I'm just think maybe they came in with more boats. I don't know. You know, it's a royal family. They got the bucks. They could have sailed out, you know, where Lehi had to sneak out, you know. And the Native Americans that all live here on the St. Lawrence, primarily the Algonquin family, around the Great Lakes, around the St. Lawrence, they will all tell you, we did not come across the Bering Land Bridge. That's a white man story. Now,
Okay.
we had some visitors that did come that way, but we that live here, we came from the east. We came from the rising sun, sailed across the Atlantic into the mouth of the St. Lawrence, and we spread across the heartland off those waterways, And Lehi did the same thing.
Okay.
All
okay.
right?
So those
Now-
people's stories of themselves.
That's right.
Okay.
Even Dr. Sorensen, who supports Central America, he recognizes a very important fact. He said, the evidence may be added to historical geographical facts external to the scriptures. The distance from Israel to the promised land was shorter by the Atlantic than the Pacific. And the expertise of the Phoenician mariners was oriented west, not east, into the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Quote, in my view, that they traveled via the Atlantic is certain. Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Sorensen. This is the only thing him and I agree on.
Okay.
This is it. But I appreciate it. He's starting to wake up. It's all good. So we have in Florida and Georgia a culture called the Deptford phase. Now, this is all done by non-LDS people way before I was even born, 40s and the 50s, early 60s. Well, I was born in the 40s. I'm not that old. But anyway, we got 3 hot spots here. Any one of these 3 could be Lehi's Landing. Any one of them. Because it's solid Hopewell. This is the oldest Hopewell in all of North America. Imagine that. The oldest. Who got here first? Lehi or
Yes.
Mulek?
Right.
Lehi got here first.
Yeah.
This is the oldest. It's Florida. Okay.
Okay.
And the middle blue star, right below him, is the 30-degree latitude line, and falls on a place called St. John's. And that's a whole, another story. Okay, but just hang on. So here we are, oldest Hopewell. Bingo. Now, this is really cool. It came to pass, we did begin to till the earth, and we began to plant seeds. We did put all our seeds in the earth from the land of Jerusalem. Now, that should tell you wherever they went, the land had to be, climate zones had to be very similar or the same as Jerusalem, right? I mean, and this also tells us if they're planning when they arrived, they had to get here in the spring of the year. Following the Atlantic crossing, leaving from the Arabian Peninsula, we know the time it would have taken them to get across. They would have had to leave between the end of October to mid-November to be here for spring, for Florida planting, because their spring down there is like January, going into February. Okay, it's not that big a deal. Anyway, let me just press on. So I was sitting there thinking about that, and I thought, gosh, I wonder what's the latitude of Jerusalem. Well, the latitude right here at that top side is 31.7. Okay, so I thought, well, what's the latitude of Jerusalem? Went across, big old globe, bingo. Jerusalem, 31.7 degrees. It's the same.
So you're saying that's important because they would have known how to plant
The seeds, yeah, it's the same climate zone.
Grow. Okay.
Same zone, yeah. The
And
seeds can germinate.
And what's the altitude difference and the humidity difference? Do we know?
That I don't know. I've never checked that out.
Okay.
But anyway, there you go. Bingo.
That's interesting. I guess it would be too long of a time period to do a botanical study to see if there are any similar plants that came.
That's already been done, but it's another story.
Okay. All right.
I got you covered, girl.
Okay. I'm just asking the questions as they come up. I appreciate you letting me.
I'm going to jump.
It's all new to me.
I want to jump into some artifacts.
Okay.
All right. This is a Roman ship nail for ships. Notice the big head. When they started crucifying people, because the hand would tear out so easily, they began using very large nails because the large head would cup the whole hand, you see, so you couldn't tear out. And this is also used as crucifix nails. Well, guess what we find in the waters of northern Wisconsin? Ship nails. This guy's a diver. He's got a whole pail full because he's found a wreck out in the Superior waters. This is ship nails. A pile of hardened copper ship nails.
Can these be carbon dated? Do we know how old they are?
We can't really date that, but now he could do more on the ship, but he's doing that himself. He won't tell me where the ship is just yet.
Okay? Oh, okay.
We'll get there. All right. Now, I always then go look for history of the Native Americans. Can they add anything to Lehigh, the anchors, the quarry stones, the ship nails? Do they have anything to add? And I have to be very honest with you. Even though a lot of times I search, I come up empty. A lot of things I've found have been given to me spiritually. I've been told, look at this book, turn that page. I mean, it's literally been like people have all these neat genealogy stories.
Yes.
I've got a archaeology, and this is one of them. This is one of them. This is going to blow your mind when you read about the Algonquin oral history about Florida. Look at this. Here's your reference. It's not from Wayne May. This is where I found it. 1819. Book of Mormon isn't even out yet. That's a big deal. That should resonate. Look what they say. Limestone quarries in Florida are believed to have provided anchors for ancient international sea trade. What? International sea trade?
International. What is that? Yeah, what does that mean?
John Johnston, Indian agent of the Shawnee, reported in Algonquin tradition they came to north from across the Atlantic Ocean. Oh my. And that white people using iron tools, another big no-no, inhabited Florida. Homer said the Phoenicians anchored their ships with help of pierced stones. Again, another point for the anchors. This comes out of the Native Americans, for crying out loud.
Okay.
Is this in our history books? No.
Okay.
Question?
No, I think this is interesting. I guess it wouldn't be, we don't learn the specific of history unless you major in it. So you're saying even people that go to study North America geography or archaeology or ancient civilizations aren't taught these things.
No.
Okay.
I'm waiting to write the first history book of North America. That's what I'm waiting for.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of artifacts that are all Book of Mormon support, all found here. And they're basically Hopewell at 550, 400 AD. Here comes the Hopewell, all right? Artifacts.
Okay.
This here is called the Keystone, found in 1859 at a earthworks, which matched the Book of Alma, which we'll get to that. Has Hebrew writing on it. It can be read, and it's on all four sides. And when you look at it, I always hope I'd find something to say made in Zarahemla. I keep hoping. But anyway, here's what it says on all four sides. Phrases that we hear in other places, yes? Okay.
Okay. So I have two questions really quickly. I should have asked them before, but
Yeah.
just really quickly, this idea that there was no civilization or like evolved civilization, whatever, complex civilization in the Americas.
Right.
Does that just grow out of like the Andrew Jackson Manifest Destiny? That, you know, like, is that part of our myth that we have to minimize the indigenous peoples in order to justify ourselves?
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And and
That's
so
all part
why
of it. You got to dumb down there because see if we have any ties with these red people. If any of them can claim sovereignty to a nation in Europe or Asia, then we got a problem. We got to deal with
or
them.
if yeah, or if we can't dehumanize them to make ourselves, you
That's
know,
right.
feel better.
That's
So
right.
that's interesting because culture has changed so much that we look at manifest destiny and those ideas with horror at this point. So why do you think the that idea has stuck around? Like, is it because I mean, why aren't more people open to studying ancient North American or South American civilizations? Well, I mean, even in South America, we know
Well,
about the temples and things. So why are we so shut down to North America?
well, it's come through our education system for one thing, and I mean, I don't put out things a lot of on a spiritual note very often, but I got to tell you, Satan's done a good plan up here. He's really
Okay.
he has shut us down up here big time, and it's just sad. I mean, it's unbelievable the stuff that's been lost, and it doesn't have to be. It's everywhere. But
Right. And it is interesting because even just all of those anchor stones, you know, in your theory, they're anchor stones. It would be interesting to see other people studying them and coming up with theories. So it's interesting that they're just ignored when there are artifacts that should be. So, okay. And then anyway, I'm just finding that fascinating that why would people be pushing on that? And my other question with these artifacts.
Yeah.
So another person I talked to me about, I think it was the Michigan artifacts that are known to be forgeries.
Oh,
So
boy.
what testing can be done to know what is genuine and what could be forgeries? Because I think that's how people like to just ignore a lot of this stuff.
Basically organic matter for one thing, which we don't have much of because they were found by just regular people. 27 counties the Michigan artifacts came out of. 27 counties, over 10,000 artifacts. Some say as high as 20. And they've all been declared fraud because it depicts religious scenes from the Bible, and it depicts scenes that we don't know what they are. And on there's a mixed bag of language script. There's Assyrian, there's Egyptian, and there's Coptic. The same Coptic that you find between the paws of the Great Sphinx that was translated and figured out. Coptic. And that, again, that's another whole story. I got a whole talk on the Michigan Talus.
Okay. So
it's the largest archaeological tragedy in North America. And I beat that one very good because it's sad.
Okay, so I guess their work is being done to try to determine what is genuine and what is a forgery
in a very limited way.
Okay, all right. I'll let you continue. These are some of the questions that I, want to get deeper into. Okay.
We find concrete.
Okay.
Where we find this, mostly we find it underneath a mound where they built, like, they had a house, and for some reason when the fellow died, they would put him in there and they would burn his house down over his burial. We found that the floors of these houses are concrete. And then in some of the mound builder books, and the old ones, 1800s, they found a large mound, 20, 30 footer, and some of them had a cap of concrete. They had to use sledgehammers to break the cap before they get to the dirt to start, excavating. So It's here. And this is right at Mound City. Archaeologists show this to you, but you got to ask for it. It's not on display.
Okay,
they don't know what to do with it. Well, concrete. Okay.
So I'm going to ask a couple more questions. Some people might be going crazy because they know a lot more about this than I do. Other people, though, might be brand new to this even more than I am because I have some familiarity with it. Limited. But so the mound builders, are the Hopewell people. Do we know what they were building the mounds for? Because I thought they were like defensive, or that there was some evidence that they might have been like what is it when Captain Moroni is building up all of the defenses? I've heard people compare them to that. Why would they cap it over with concrete? Like do you have theories about what
that would be a burial mound?
Okay, that was the.
I'm going to show you the forts.
Okay, all right. So they built mounds for different reasons, and they built burial mounds was one of the purposes.
That's right. And some of the mounds are just for built up so you can put a wooden tower on top of that just to watch.
Okay. Which, yep, all of these things do sound reminiscent of the Book of Mormon. So I'm catching the
everything.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
They'll tell you there's no smelting in North America until Christopher Columbus gets here. Absolutely baloney. We've got 13 smelters just in Ohio. This guy here has one on his farm in Virginia. He paid for the university to come there, and it was all done through the university. All done the right way, hands-on, academia. Look at the date, 150 AD. Iron in North America, smelted.
Okay.
And that's an iron bar right there. Okay.
Okay.
And
do we need steel as well? Do we need steel in the Book of Mormon or just iron?
No, there's steel.
Okay. And I guess you'll get to that. All right.
No, up here on the top right, that's slag. Slag off the smelting process, when it solidifies, it's really quite pretty. It's a beautiful green color. It's slick like a tile, but only man can make slag. It's not made by nature. So if you find that, you're on top of a furnace.
Okay.
The two pictures on the left, that's an iron axe head still in a clay mold. I have that. I show that at times at my shows. And the bottom right is a brick from one of the smelters where the slag only exists on one side.
Okay.
I have all four of these pieces in my house.
Wow.
Okay. Otherwise, they don't get preserved out in the wild because people still could go there. These things aren't protected. Okay.
It's just crazy that no one's looking for these things. I mean, it's hard to understand that. Okay.
Okay. Let's go on. Now, this is really important. This is Mound 25. Mound 25 was excavated, and this guy here, Case and Carr, are archaeologists, and they are talking about their peers that did the excavation. He said, these excavations from the 1840s to 1920s, keyword unpublished information. I mean, I'm trying to answer your questions here.
Yeah.
On site layouts, features, artifacts, skeletal series from these investigations and some later ones have discouraged the analysis and cultural interpretation of the material legacy of the Hopewell, Ohio people. In other words, they're holding back information from the public.
Wow.
They won't let it out. Well, this guy squealed on him, and he's one of my heroes because I've talked to this guy.
Okay.
Now, let me show you. Here's what they found. This is Mound 25. 69 copper and iron. Those are axes, a celt. 92 copper and iron breastplates, armor.
Yep. So this is the evidence that they always say doesn't exist of.
Here's what I can prove. If I could put you in a car and we could start in eastern Kansas and at every museum all the way to western New York, okay, you will see these copper artifacts. The breastplate, you'll see head plates and axes. You will never see an iron artifact on display. Never. And I'll bet you any kind of money. You want to gamble on it? I'll lay it down. I'll match your money. I'll take it. You'll lose every time.
So, okay, how could it? So this is where we get into the conspiracy theory, blah, 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 blah.
I know. I know. And I hate to even go that far, but I'm just telling you, it's not there. But here we have the evidence.
Right. So what would keep some museum from displaying something, right?
Because it shows sophistication. It shows higher culture. It goes back to your manifest destiny. It leans into that. The Indians have to stay dumbed down. They have to stay dumbed down.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just wondering why somebody wouldn't go get those things and start displaying them. I mean, you're doing it. But...
Well, the Smithsonian has got a big fist on a lot of people.
Okay. And maybe, that's
this was all set up by John Wesley Powell. I can show you right out of his own journals that they publish.
That they intentionally did
found anterior to the arrival of Christopher Columbus. Has to be put aside.
Okay, that's so interesting. Why doesn't someone write an academic paper on John Wesley Powell and point that out? It's just amazing to me that this would continue. That seems.
I know.
Unbelievable. Okay.
Well, welcome to my world.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
All right, let's go on. Here's axes, iron.
And these
Now,
are all
Hopewell. These are Hopewell.
yeah, these are Hopewell, and yet they are not. It's so sad. We want to know about our own land. This is crazy.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, for Nephi talks about pearls. Here's 2 mounds, 48,000 pearls and 100,000 pearls, all fresh water. You see? Sewn on
Okay.
their clothing. The Hopewell did not wear buckskin. They wore cloth. We've got samples of cloth at the Columbus Museum in Ohio. You can go see Hopewell fabric.
What did they use? They weren't growing cotton. What was their cloth made from?
It's all kind of natural fibers that they made themselves. And it's all explained out there. I can't even begin to tell you.
Okay.
But
Okay. I'll have to go to the museum.
And then these guys are pretty racy. We got bright colors, and like whoa, it's not what you see.
What does it talk about? The finery in the Book of Mormon? They
linen, silk.
Fine linen. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason the cloth is preserved is because the only cloth they have, a large piece of copper has to be laying on top of it. So you got your body's dressed. If you bury a soldier with his breastplate, this cloth is going to survive because the carbonate off the copper. Everything else is gone.
Okay.
But this survives. And that's where they get it. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Pearls. We got pearls. Oil lamps. Every lamp here is from the Mediterranean except one. You want to guess? I always ask my crowd to guess, but that's okay. Here it is.
Okay. I'm guessing.
Number 4 is Ohio. That's out of Ohio.
Yeah, it's shaped a little bit differently.
Does that look any different than 1 or 2?
No, it doesn't. It's just as round. Okay.
Yeah, it's out of Ohio. I mean, come on, guys. And this isn't the only one. If I show you one, I can show you 5 or 6.
Right. So is the theory that someone brought it from the Mediterranean, put it in Ohio? Is like can we trace the provenance of these artifacts to see what
you would have to take a sample off the plate and test the clay. They could tell where the clay was made here or it was brought over. They could do that.
Okay.
I own number 4.
Okay.
I don't want anybody to drill into it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I would think about it. I guess maybe I would think about it. I would consider it.
And
but
do you know the provenance?
My point is, you could take number 4 and put it in a museum anywhere in the Mediterranean. Nobody know the difference. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Which is why it would be neat to show the provenance, how we know that it's North American.
Well, see, this is dug up by a farmer.
Okay.
I have an antique store. They get stuff from Amish because Amish are still walking behind the plow. They see what rolls up.
Okay.
Modern day guys in the tractor, they're driving. They can't see anything behind them.
Yep.
And I go there. This is how I got this.
Okay.
I got this from an Amish farmer because this guy saves stuff. So he calls me and says, Wayne, I got 6 items, blah, blah, blah. Well, I shoot down to that store and I don't tell anybody where that store is.
Amazing. Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right. How about that? The official word for this in academia is fanciful pitchfork.
Not menorah? That's how old are menorahs? They're very old, aren't they?
Very old. And the Potawatomi of Indiana and Michigan that own this stone, you ask them, okay, what can you tell me? They'll tell you this is a symbol of our ancient ancestors.
So the Potawatomi don't claim it's a fanciful pitchfork, we still
they know what it is. They know.
Nobody's gone back and questioned any of this. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a good one. This is the Bat Creek stone. This was on Cherokee lands. It was dug up by the Smithsonian under controlled conditions. So, it wasn't found by accident. No farmer turned it over. They dug it up. And what's neat about this is the way it's been on display. A gal by the name of Henriette Mertz, who is the mainstay for all our Michigan artifact information, which that's later. She saw this in a book or a magazine like this. And she took this and she turned it upside down and she said, this is Paleo Hebrew. So she calls up this guy, Cyrus Gordon, who is the top epigrapher in America at this time, well respected in Europe. He calls up the Smithsonian and they get him in there and he's allowed to examine the stone. And he says, yes, if you turn the stone the other way around, it's Paleo-Hebrew. And the part that's broke off, he said, all he can say right what he has so far says for Judah, but he can't tell you the first part because it's been broken.
Okay.
And this has been identified at 100 BC to 100 AD in the mound it came out of in East Tennessee.
Okay.
All right. Now, hold on. That's right side up. Here's why they're able to test the stone so easy. You see the two hash marks in the upper right-hand corner of the bottom picture?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the person's hand trowel struck it when they were actually digging it out of the earth. Now,
Okay.
see, the good news is that makes a scratch in the patina.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those two scratches are compared with the patina in the letters, and the gap is huge age-wise.
So it's not a forgery. It's
not a forgery.
Okay.
And yet, even though all that has been given to the Smithsonian, it's still on display upside down.
Oh.
I mean, it's just like, I'm surprised I haven't just stressed out and died by now.
So the Smithsonian, okay, I want to point this out for people. The Smithsonian is putting this on display, which means the Smithsonian agrees that this is an actual artifact from
Hopewell.
a Hopewell artifact.
Yeah.
Right. So they do have to acknowledge that we have artifacts, and they do acknowledge that they just misrepresent more recent important findings about
them. They all
them.
turn away, and they,
Okay.
I've had guys go so far because they've read the Book of Mormon, and they say, "Can you imagine?" I heard a guy once say, "Remember Marion G. Romney was running to be president, years back." I heard an archaeologist. I'm telling you, this is the gospel. I heard an archaeologist tell me, "Can you imagine if we elected a guy to be president of this country who believes there were synagogues here in 100 and 200 AD?"
Oh, you mean when Mitt Romney was running, not Marion G. Romney? Mitt Romney.
I'm sorry. Did I say Marion? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like, no, I don't remember that, but I remember Mitt. Okay, yeah.
Mitt. I'm sorry. Yeah, Mitt.
Yep,
Oh gosh,
okay.
bong, bong, bong.
That's all right. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know if he does. Okay, that's interesting.
Okay. All right. Now, there's more. Let me show you this one. This is a real killer. I am not an epigrapher. Yes, I can recognize certain letters, but I am not an epigrapher. This coin up here in the upper left is shekel, as it says, from the Jewish War. Down in the right is the same one, except it's better shape. This one, it was blurry because I got it from this, where it was at. This final report, I had to give the reference. I wanted to know what the reference was, okay? So I looked at this, and I saw letters on here were looking the same as the Bat Creek letters, okay? Mm-hmm. So here's the Bat Creek stone. I did a reverse so you could see the letters. Now I'm going to do a reverse of the coin, and I'm going to compare the letters, because Cyrus Gordon said these letters are all legit. The Jews say on the coin these letters are all legit, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the coin. Now let's take a look. Look at that one. How about that one?
Whoa.
How about that one? How about that one? How about that? Whoops, went too far. The last one didn't come out, but there you go. What do you think?
That's very interesting.
Isn't that something? I mean, I'm just out here fooling around on the internet. Just look at that. It's the same.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
The coin is accepted as real, but the Bat Creek stone is not accepted as real, yet it matches the coin.
And what is the reason that the Bat Creek stone isn't accepted?
Well, because it shows that people are here from across the pond.
Oh, I mean, they don't have there isn't like a scientific explanation of it.
No, they don't want anybody here from before Columbus. That's still being taught today in our kids that go through to become an archaeologist. They're still being taught nobody here before 1492.
Sure. I was just wondering if they had if they had a scientific reason that they referred to.
No, they do not have a scientific reason.
Okay.
They've just thumbs down.
Okay.
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 This here is called the Decalogue stone. This was found in 1860, and it has a complete rendition of the 10 Commandments on the face, the sides, and the back of that stone, which if I had it, I could roll and show it to you. 10 Commandments, the whole thing there. And above that guy's head are three, this is all Hebrew, by the way, are three letters that say Moshe. Moshe is Moses. That's it. So now it's very unusual because, Jews don't do that kind of thing. I mean, they don't put, people together on, it's a big no-no. All right.
Mhm.
So anyway, but this whole thing was discussed at the Journal of Discourses, and Elder Pratt delivered a talk on this whole stone in the Salt Lake Tabernacle, and you can go read about it. And they totally accepted this as legitimate. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Now, what happened is this is called block Hebrew, and block Hebrew was used only a very small window that they can tell as of today, and they're saying it's in that 100 BC to 100 AD area around the temple, and they actually found block Hebrew at the temple site during one of the archaeological digs. That's why we know it's legit. They found block Hebrew. On the internet, it's called monumental Hebrew. We've always called it block Hebrew from the 1800 days, guys, but monumental Hebrew.
Okay.
All right, now let me show you this. I'm in Rome going through the museums about 10 years ago, and I see these guys here, and this right here is in the Vatican. I'm in the Vatican Museum.
Oh, okay. They've
And
got
I'm
these
looking at this
Egyptian.
stuff,
Okay.
and right away I see something absolutely, wow, terrific. And I'll point it out to you. Why don't you look at that guy? Why don't you
Mhm.
look at this guy? Now I'm going to make him big so you can see him close up. Now remember the Decalogue stone I just showed you, the 10 Commandment stone? I'm going to stick that right in the middle.
Wow.
You know?
How big are all of these? Are they similar sizes?
Um,
Or I guess that doesn't matter. They could have large and small, so it's okay. You don't have to take
probably
time.
about 9 inches, maybe.
Well, so the ones in the ones in
They're
the
all about the same size, about the same size.
okay, they're smaller than they
But
look.
it's just
Okay.
like, wow, I mean, what a parallel. So, you know, I love parallels.
That's
I can't
amazing.
tell you that these are the same, but I can say, wow, look at these things. So it's like these guys went to the same sculpture school. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is
Whatever.
interesting.
Stuff like
Okay.
that. It just made my day to see all that. So,
Mhm.
and of course, the Book of Mormon, Ether in particular, talks about 3 types of these guys, right?
Mhm.
We find them all over the Midwest, and they're in places and positions where they don't have to be 10,000 BC when we were told they're all gone by 10,000 BC. Well, not according to Hopewell. This here, the top here with the elephant, the black, that's a gorget that was worn around the neck. You've got
Okay.
a mastodon standing there, and you got guys in the picture. Down below, there's an elephant pipe. Hopewell's made effigy pipes. Only Hopewell made effigy pipes. And here's my effigy pipe.
Wow. That's it. Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go to an artifact show today, you want to buy one of these, you better take your checkbook.
Okay.
10 to 15 thou.
Whoa.
Yeah. Highly sought after. Highly sought after.
So
But here
who is
we
it?
got elephant pipes out of Iowa. There's 2 of them. And then we got carvings. And the one on the top right with the green circle, that for me is just, I mean,
Yeah.
this is like, wow. I mean,
Well, let me ask you. So I've heard, I've heard the problem of elephants, for example,
Yep.
and horses. But so I guess one of the arguments would be we would find bones.
yeah.
But maybe what you would say is nobody's looked. Is that?
Well, we got bones.
Oh, we have elephant. Okay, I'll just keep
Yeah, we're not
listening.
there
All
yet.
right.
You're
Okay.
asking the right questions.
Okay.
But see, the real giveaway here is this mound in the upper right-hand corner, okay? That whole thing is classified as jaredite. Well, how do the Jaredites know what a bunch of bones look like to make a mastodon? That's an effigy made out of dirt. You can't look at the bones and say, well, we know what this guy looks like, right? But yet there it is.
Right.
The only reason this is preserved because the guy who owned it was a doctor of medicine, and he had enough wherewithal. He went on. This is actually a painting in his house. He
Okay.
painted this thing because Ohio guys came in and excavated it, and they didn't put the mastodon back together.
Ah.
You can go there today, but it's just a big pile of dirt. It's called the Turner
Oh.
Mound. The Turner Mound.
Okay. So that's it.
It should have
okay.
got put back together.
Yeah.
They do
Oh,
others, not here, not supposed to be here,
So this is adding to the evidence that we have actual bones. In addition to bones, we have that is what you're saying. Okay.
That is
All right.
correct.
Very interesting.
This right here, this guy's another doctor, Frederick. See, the early guys, 1830s all the way up to I'd say after the Civil War, the guys doing the work here are usually men of high profession. Medical field is high. A lot of doctors, a lot of ministers, because they've got the time, they got the money to go and do it. Everybody else is in, they're plowing the fields. They don't have time to do this stuff. Okay. So here, this right here, I have before too suggested that the ancient mound builders were contemporary with the mastodon, and that in all probability they tamed and used the powerful beast to haul heavy burdens. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I will give you my evidence for such a belief. It is a fact admitted by all familiar with the prehistoric discoveries that the bones of the mastodon and those of the mound builders are found in the same localities in about the same state of preservation.
Okay.
Surprise. The copper relic formerly referred to, found on the Allegheny River with the form of an elephant engraved upon it, represented in harness, that first attracted my attention to that subject.
Whoa. Okay. So has anybody done work to refute this, or do they just ignore it?
Yes, we have one anthropologist has done this, a geologist guy, a paleontologist is the right word. Yeah, and he's down in Cincinnati, and I published his work in Ancient American Magazine. He says the elephants were here. Now he's the only guy, and boy, he's getting pounded for it. I mean, just
that's what I was going to ask: is what the other
the minute you break out of the mold, it's like what was it? Yeah, a guy took, you take 100 ants, you put them in a bowl, steep bowl, okay? And they're all humming around, but pretty soon one ant, he'll start to climb out, he'll get halfway up, and what do the other ants do? They go up after him and they grab onto him and they pull him back into the pile.
Right. Yeah.
They won't, you can't go there. You can't do it.
Okay. Interesting.
There's elephant stuff all over. Gosh, it's all over. I'm just like I said, I show you one thing, there's more.
We're just scratching the surface. Yep.
You want to see cattle? Book of Mormon talks about cattle.
Okay.
This is a cave out of Arkansas.
Wow.
And you know this is cattle because he's still alive today in India. Okay. It's the same thing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Now, so here we go. Scenario. One of two things happened here. I'm going to say three. Guys from India got blown off course and they ended up in America continent. And somehow they got across the heart of our continent to the Arkansas River. And they were so homesick, they carved an image of a cow to make them feel. Or they wanted to have a steak so bad, they carved a cow thinking about, boy, wouldn't it be nice to have a steak? Or the third one is some guy just made it up.
Okay. Because we know that this is ancient. This isn't modern.
Of course, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Horses. This is really good. Dr. Stephen Jones out of BYU and two other scientists, they led the work on this. Equus samples that date in the time frame of 6000 BC to 1481 AD, well since the last ice age and all before Columbus, that all of these radiometrically dated Equus horse remains were found in North America. Using state-of-the-art dating methods, we, along with other researchers, have found radiometrically dated evidence for the existence of horses in North America long after the Ice Age, 10,000 BC, and before the arrival of Chris.
Okay.
This has all been done scientifically.
Amazing. Yeah.
Who cares, right? The only nobody cares, we should be Mormons. Because it supports the book. That's my point. It supports the book. That's why I do what I do. It really hurts me when I bump into people. Oh, my Uncle Harry, he left the church. Why leave the church? Oh, he said there's nothing in Central America, and so the Book of Mormon's got to be a fairy tale. But nobody looks this way. Nobody looks to the east. Nobody looks
fascinating.
To the east.
Okay.
Okay, roll on. Oh, this is a good one. When you go through the museums, you're going to see birds like this. And I used to say, and I actually got them to change this at the Mound City. It used to say falcon, bird of prey. I said, come on, guys. That's a parrot. and arguing for a long time. And finally, one day I walked in, and it was Bill. Bill was a volunteer that worked there at the museum. He was there. He's been there as long as I've been doing this, and he's retired now, unfortunately. But I walked in, I had a bus group of 50, and he lined us all up. He made us all stay there at the front counter. I said, I have something. I have to make a major announcement. Wayne's going to love this. He said, we finally got him to take off the word falcon bird of prey.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, they took it down because I convinced him that he started working on the archaeologist, the curator of the museum, and finally they agreed and they took it down. So why parrots? We find not only sculptures like this out of copper, but we find the remains of parrots and parakeets in the Hopewell burial mounds. What does that tell us about our climate?
Oh, that it was much more humid and much, right?
It wasn't like today. It wasn't like today at all. And I can show that to you in a different presentation. And the answer to that, it comes from the Vikings. So I got to leave that. I'm just leaving it.
Okay.
All right. So here's the area where the Hopewell area, and that's where the parakeets lived anciently.
Okay.
The last one alive in North America was living in 1939 in the tip of Florida. And that parakeet today is extinct, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Gone.
So that's
okay,
amazing.
Year round. And we have to have sheep if we're going to do the law of Moses. We got sheep bones, Hopewell, Kip Island, lots of sheep bones. So the sheep were here. That's my point. We got sheep.
Okay.
This is a good one. The Lamanites would follow the beasts. Now, they never used the word migration, but it says they're following from the land south into the land north and vice versa. My point is they are following migrating beasts.
Yeah, following the beast sounds pretty obvious. Uh-huh. Okay.
South of the Rio Grande, Central America, South America, they have no migrating beasts. This has to be our buffalo.
But what about at that time period? Like you just showed us parakeets. Do we know, can we go back to see what the anthropological or what's the word for the study of animals? Do we know what it was at that time period?
I'm not sure what you're asking me.
I guess I'm wondering, like the buffalo, the bison was at the time when the that Jacksonian era. Yeah. What about when the climate was so different back then?
Yeah, they got bones with Hopewell arrowheads sticking out.
Okay. All right.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Okay.
This was the main food source. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
And this one here, Alma 16:11. After many days, their dead bodies heaped upon the face of the earth, and they're covered with a shell covering of dirt. This is what a battle mound looks like. This is men, women, and children.
Where was this found?
This was in Kentucky.
When was this found, and why don't we know about this?
Well, why do we know about any of this?
That was rhetorical, but when was this found?
In 1950s.
Whoa. This is an ancient burial mound in the Americas. I mean, we do.
There's lots.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go on. But behold, was how great their disappointment that the Lamanites, the Nephites, had dug up a ridge of earth round about them, which was so high that the Lamanites could not cast their stones and their arrows at them. Now, the key word here is casting stones, casting arrows. Let's take a look. What's going on here?
Yeah.
This is how you cast an arrow. It's an atlatl.
Yep, an atlatl. I have.
This is the chief weapon of the Lamanites. It was still in use on first contact, but it had dwindled because the bow and arrow is becoming more popular. But we know the Nephites developed the bow and arrow, or had it, obviously, because in Helaman, they shot arrows. You see bottom? Shot arrows. So we know the Nephites are drawing the bow, Lamanites are casting the arrow during their troubled times. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. And it doesn't reverse. I haven't looked into any of this, but
that's okay.
Do we have Lamanites in the Book of Mormon shooting arrows, or?
Oh, I'm sure they picked it up eventually. Now, if you go into academia, you say, when was the bow and arrow first used in North America? It will tell you 600 AD.
Oh, why do they say that? Because they haven't even done the archaeological research.
That's how they've dated it.
Okay.
See, so the Book of Mormon is in conflict with academia constantly. Well,
sure. Yeah. But people would say that that's evidence that the Book of Mormon is fictional. But you know, that's the challenge, right? Is who's
That's
wrong,
right.
who's right.
That's right. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And here's a whole bunch of their pipes look like. That's why I showed you that pipe.
Mm-hmm.
They're absolutely beautiful. Here's my pipe.
Yeah, that's amazing.
They're absolutely gorgeous. By the way, Squire and Davis pulled out over 2,000 of artifacts, and about 300 or 400 were these beautiful pipes. And these are all in England, by the way, because nobody wanted them. So a rich guy in England bought Squire and Davis's collection, and they took it back to the London Museum, and it's there. And you only see about maybe 2 or 3% of the collection. It's all boxed up and put away, but this is what's on display in England.
Wow.
Hopewell pipes in England. They love them. There
It's
they are.
depressing. Okay. Yeah.
They're all made. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. Let's go
Mm-hmm.
on. Now, this is typical Hopewell stuff. Gorgets, arrowheads, copper blades, big axes, stone hammers, and I'm going to show you some more. This is cold hammered. This is a process that we've lost. We don't know how they did this, but when this cold hammer process, these guys are, I'm not going to say as hard as iron, but as far as killing a person, they'll do the job just as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Let's put it that way. But cold hammered.
Wow.
And we got lots of swords.
Wow.
And not just swords, we have scimitars, the curved ones.
Uh-huh.
You'll never see an iron sword because they've rusted out. They're gone.
Okay.
The ground in the Midwest loves iron. It'll just chew the heck out of it. It's very rare to find iron, but it's here, but it's limited, very limited.
Okay.
Here's a nice copper one.
Mm-hmm.
The Roman short sword that they used to conquer their empire was no more than 12 inches long. A lot of people don't realize that. And here's a 12-inch sword.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
I love this one. This is Montana. Montana. Look at those artifacts. Look at that sword on the left, the handle.
Yeah, that's
Look
amazing.
how big that middle one is.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. Now, here's what's really cool. I want you to take a real good look at this one, the handle.
Yeah.
Look at the handle. A friend of mine was in Jerusalem, and matter of fact, he sent me this image from Jerusalem on his phone because he was in an antique store looking at neat stuff. There's Jerusalem. There's my North Dakota.
Whoa.
Look,
Okay.
are they not the same? I mean, even the fold is over, and the holes and the handles, the grip. Now, I can tell you that the Jerusalem sword, that's made for lunging. It's made for lunging. The fat blade on the bottom one, that's made for slashing.
Oh, okay.
That's the difference. So I mean, it's not a mistake. They make them that way on purpose. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Right. This guy here has a great story. He was walking his dog on the shoreline of Lake Superior. The tip of this sword was just sticking out of the sand. He just reached down, pull it up out of the sand.
Wow.
Now, being the good Joe that he is, he lives on the Canadian side, I might add. He went to the Toronto Museum because they have a huge copper collection, which is really awesome. And he offered them this piece, which they don't have. Guess what they said? They said this: "Thank you for considering us, and your offer is so kind. However, we have to decline your offer." And he says, "Well, you don't have one of these in display. Well, what's up?" Well, Native Americans don't make swords.
Oh my gosh. So they
This has to be a replica or a fake. So thank you, but we don't want it.
Oh my word. So everything, I mean, it could be a replica or a fake, but test it. Yeah, like test it.
Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. And then here's head plates and breastplates. I'm going to show you those, what they look like. This is a head plate. This is the back of the head up on top, all the way to the forward. The curly pieces, they go over your ears, down to the cheek. And then those 4 dots, those are grommets. Their helmets were held together with a leather cap.
Okay.
It wasn't like you see in our paintings, like a Greek or a Roman helmet. That's just not there. This is what they did. And we know it was leather because the archaeologists, when they uncovered some of these guys, they could see the material, but it just literally crumbled before their eyes because of the age. Now, if they could have had a camera right there, clickety, clickety, click, we would have, but it just didn't work out that way. But they said leather caps. These things are all held together with leather caps.
Wow.
Leather.
So interesting. Okay.
Breastplate. I can tell you how this was worn. Now, this doesn't follow a man's chest. It just kind of lays across you. Imagine taking a knotted cord and you pull it through that holes up in the corner. And then when you get up there, then you cinch it. You pull the cord through and then you cinch all four parts. And then in the center, that would stabilize your neck. Your cord to go around there to stabilize the neck piece, and that holds your breastplate in place.
Okay.
Now, the guys that really had nice ones, there'd be 3 of these, and they're scaled down in size like the belly of a crab or a shrimp. Exoskeletons. One smaller and then smaller for the abdomen, like a big V,
Mm-hmm.
3 bing, bing, bing.
Yep. So they would wear separate pieces. Okay.
Had to be clothing. Had to be clothing for sure.
Wow.
And this here, and this will prove it. This is an arm shield, and you can't see it very well, but this arm shield has little teeny white dots all the way around it, and those are the holes where they sewed it onto a coat. You put it on like a football uniform. You put it on, and this small piece that laid on your collarbone right here.
Oh, okay.
So you get struck or you get hit in the arm, you got a chance to deflect. But these things were worn. It was a garment. They had to put it on. It wasn't this brassy thing like you see on the, well.
This seems actually way smarter. Okay.
Yeah. All right. And here is possibly an actual armband. This was found at Nauvoo.
Wow.
Yeah, at a creek. And we got the other 2 in the museum to show you what they look like on, this one's been really hurt because of weather, but you can see what they look like uncankered. All right. Now, how far do you want me to go?
This is amazing. I'm fascinated.
Keep going?
Yeah, we can do some more. Okay. Yeah.
I'll keep going. Here come the forts.
I'm sorry. I'm only yawning because I just had my conference and I haven't slept for several nights. So I'm fascinated. Don't take it personally. I'm staying wide awake. I just am way behind on sleep. But this is amazing.
Now, this is an actual fort. The archaeologists here gone out to where the walls stood, and by going down to the ground, you find circles. What they usually are just a stain in the soil, different color from the other soil. And then they know it's a post mold. That's where a post stood in the ground, stood up vertically. And what they have done here, based on the size, they have then built, this is what the wall would have looked like, but of course they would have had a covering on it. But here's the post. So you see the 3 towers, one on each end and one in the center, the big rectangles. And we're going to see more of that. But,
what kind of a covering would it have had? You mean just like a top?
They had plaster. Remember I showed you that concrete?
Yeah.
They had plastered material. They had plastered waterways to shoot water. I mean,
okay.
So much stuff. Again, a lot of special sites here. I'm showing you the whole area. This is where we're going to find the fortifications. Mississippi Valley is heavy. The Ohio is heavy. Western New York is heavy.
Okay.
Imagine that.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now here's the 4 types. The black and white one is the smallest ones. You'll find those that can take in 3 acres, 4 acres, and they're the most numerous. And then the one above it would also be a nice sized town. But then we start to see some geometry. You see the square on the back end there. Otherwise it's round. And by that big mound in the center, it looks like you see the 3 bumps. That is mound 25 that I showed you, where the iron came out of. And then you've got your geometrics in the lower left-hand corner. These guys had high math. I mean,
it would be
hard for anyone to duplicate this. And I'm going to show you how big these are in a little bit. These are huge, huge.
Okay.
And then the upper left-hand corner, in the Book of Mormon, it says they built places of resort. Well, a place of resort is a fortification built with all the little towns around it. And if there's trouble and you think the little town can't handle it, then you're going to run to the place of resort, which is always elevated up 200, 300 to 500 or 600 feet off a high hilltop. And that whole thing then has been fortified around the edges. And that's what you're looking at. A hill fort. Okay. Now, here are the key. Alma. This is the one, people skip Alma because of all the wars. I know they don't like to read this stuff. It's boring. But maybe if they see this, it won't be so boring. But Alma, 48 and 8, place of resort, banks of earth, walls of stone, and 49, depth of the ditch, you're doing ditches. And then 20, this is key, the doorway, place of entrance. I'm going to show you all this.
Okay.
Timbers built to the height of a man, towers be erected. I just showed you a little bit of that on that wooden, but then here, and then 62 is absolutely a mind blower, and I'll show you that last because it's huge. This wall here is only 24 feet high. It was 30 feet high in its original construction, and then on top of that 30 foot of earth, there would have been a wooden palisade on top.
Okay.
The yellow lines represent the ditch that used to be there. That's been filled in because this used to be a cornfield until the Ohio Archaeology Society got a hold of it. This was a cornfield. So it's been filled back in, but that was the ditch. If you go there and you walk to the left, you'll actually see the ditch goes off onto a ravine. You'll see the ditch in the wall, then continuing the actual thing that's undisturbed. So
Okay.
you just have to know where to go. That's my point.
Mm-hmm.
That's the short guy. That's me. My friend Ernie is 6'4", so you can kind of get an idea, looking at it.
How tall it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Ditches are huge. If you saw this without myself standing down there, you'd say, well, how big are the trees? Well, now you know how big the trees are.
Yeah.
When I see ditches like this, think about Dr. Larkin's report on the elephants being in harness. I see our bulldozer as an elephant.
Oh.
I see our track hoe elephant. I see them doing the work. These things, I don't know how people could have done this by hand without the help of something.
Yeah, I was wondering. Okay.
So, it goes on.
Interesting.
Here's your covering. Again, wood stockade.
How do we know, just really quickly with that last picture, so how do we know that's not a natural geographic,
because the ditches, well, first of all, there's about 150 of these around.
Okay.
They repeat themselves.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're done perfectly.
Yep.
And this isn't just dirt thrown up. This is layered gravel and clays to make it last.
Okay.
It's engineered is the key word.
It's engineered. And I guess we can't find the, I'm curious about like the natural erosive patterns that would have created these. So we can know that they are man-made, that they're engineered. Okay. Very interesting. Thanks for answering that. Okay.
Not a problem. Again, here's the wall. You can see the post mold on the left side there, and the post going in the ground, covering. Okay. There you go. Okay.
So I guess the other thing people would argue is say, well, sure, the Hopewell built these mounds, built these ditches, and built these forts, but that doesn't mean that they were the ones that are talked about in the Book of Mormon. Is that kind of what they would say? I guess I'm trying to.
Not really, because the dates line up.
Okay. All right. So, okay.
Post molds, once in a while, they'll find an actual wood. In the stain, there'll be a piece of wood, and that wood dates them.
Okay.
The time period of Hopewell. Yeah, but you're asking all the questions. You're okay.
So even if I really want to consider this. So even if Joseph Smith was just like inspired to some extent, but none of this is true, is geographically or historically true, or if he was making it up, he sure had a lot of things that he connected that none of this research had been done at the time that he was alive, right?
That's right.
So, okay.
When the Book of Mormon came out in 1830, what I'm showing you today, I would say probably 95% of it won't be seen until after the Civil War.
Okay. And that makes sense to me because, okay. Yeah.
Joseph Smith should be the father of American archaeology.
That's amazing. And
if I had my way, that's what it would
Thomas
be. Jefferson, Thomas did a good thing. He made a couple of digs. He was starting to respect all the stuff that was out there. He would say, wow, who are these people? Even the governor Clinton in New York, and I may come up, it depends how long you want to go. Governor Clinton in New York, 1812, 1813, at that time in New York, he's saying, all these, well, in Western New York where he's at, there's over 200 fortifications. And he's saying, someday, hopefully, we'll find a record of these people written on metal.
Wow.
Someday.
Okay. So, okay. It's really interesting because in that same John DeLynn interview, I did say I haven't ever seen an explanation for the Book of Mormon that I think makes more sense than the explanation Joseph Smith gave for us. So this is really interesting and helpful to me to give me a lot more, because that's what I said. I don't have the evidence to argue that it's so you're the one doing the evidence. Okay, this is really interesting. So okay, yep. Did you want to read the scripture? I think place of entrance. All right. Place of entrance.
We're going to do this is a hill fort in Ross County, and look at the red circle. That is the place of entrance. He made the place of entrance like a maze.
Oh, cool. Okay. So that they could
Because
trap you in any of those places
that
if you
maze
were.
becomes a killing field.
Yes. It's a.
Okay.
Yep.
And then they always have a back door to escape, and that's what you see on the bottom end, the back door, so they can slip out the back if they
What
have.
they're really creating are all those bottlenecks.
You see, the
Those
only
are
way
what's
you can
stopping
approach it is on the top. That's the approach on the top.
Wow. Okay. Very
Otherwise, it's all
cool.
steep. It's all steep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
And it does
here we
show,
go.
even if nothing else, it shows that the people who built these were like geniuses at engineering and at
Well,
strategy. And I mean, this is very
Moroni
advanced.
started this
Yeah.
72 BC, Captain Moroni, 72
Yeah.
BC. So here we go.
Mm-hmm.
The red guys are going to attack. The blue guys are defending. Okay.
Okay.
Now they can't run down the brown area. That's elevation. The brown area, that's elevation.
Mm-hmm.
So only the green color is flat, high up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here come the red guys. They got to go through the openings. Remember, they got the ditch. The banks are too high, too deep. They can't do it. The Book of Mormon says sometimes the red guys, they would approach that bank of earth and they tried to dig it down to cause it to collapse to get inside. But the Nephites' arrows
shoot.
too
Mm-hmm.
deadly. They couldn't do
Yep.
it. So they have
Yep.
to go in where the Nephites want them to come in. We're saying there's no doorway there. Come on in.
That
Come
was,
on in.
and they're called places
Now
of
they walk
entrance.
in and look what they got.
Yeah.
They're in a crossfire.
That's amazing.
They're in a
Yeah.
crossfire. So if you, in order to make the next turn, you got to be in with a lot of numbers. I mean, a lot of guys.
And then layer after layer after layer of it.
And it's
It
still-
is a killing field.
The guys to the top right, they're really in trouble. They went the wrong way. You know?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Okay, now if they still had enough guys to press all the way through, well then at those two openings, that's going to be the Nephite army standing there to meet them. They're going to plug it up. This is a killing field.
It's
and this worked
amazing.
for a couple hundred years for the Nephites.
And we have all of the evidence of this. We can see this. We can go out and see that this is what they made
That's right.
with those. I see, it just makes me think like Moroni is even cooler than we thought. Like this is brilliant. That's
He's a good guy.
amazing. Okay.
Poor guy. There's a lot more. Now, this guy here, I've talked to him on the phone. He also is a good help for Book of Mormon. You see, the archaeologists back there now, they're saying all the stuff that the Hopewell built, they're all sacred sites. You just
Okay.
saw a sacred site.
Okay.
They find something new, it's a sacred site. And they talk about, oh, a high priest did this. And then where do they get this stuff?
And there's no
There's no- look what Robert did.
literary evidence to support that. Or okay.
Robert went to a place called Pollock, a Pollock earthworks that had not been touched. Diamond in the rough, that's what I call them. He said the Pollock Works has been under excavation since 1999 by Robert Riordan, Wright State University, Ohio. He found a limestone walkway over 50 feet in length extending out from one of the openings of the enclosure. Well, yeah, you got a rainy day and you got a lot of traffic. They don't want to walk in mud. They walked on cement, limestone.
Okay.
Slabs. They made things. So, and then he says from one of the openings of the enclosure itself is circular, built upon a stockade of burned, sturdy logs. This is early evidence of Hopewell earthworks used as a defensive enclosure. Oh, thank you, Robert. They're starting to wake up. You see how slow it's happening?
Uh-huh.
They're starting now. There's more. Hold on. This is the Pollock earthworks. Now you look at, and I take people here, but nobody else goes here because the other guys don't know where it's at. I don't tell anybody to get there. But I go to Pollock because it is in the rough. And I mean, it's not a park.
Mm-hmm.
This is rough walking in. But when you get here today, you'll see this is the front gate here, these little, that's redoubts. And then there's an incline up to the top, the 12-acre area. But then you look off to the left and you see the little teeny creek. You look off to the right and the water's gone. Well, how do you defend this place? Well, you got to think about when this happened, right? There's the cliff. It's 15
the water
feet
was
high.
much
Well, that's a
higher.
climb.
Okay.
Hold on. Here's the river.
Yeah.
It's almost dry. Almost. This is the back door. This is the back door. And then here come the invaders. They're going to face these redoubts. Okay. There's the back door. And
yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's why they had to come this way. The waters were out. It's all about the water.
Okay.
Otherwise, this fort makes no sense. Why would you attack this heavily defended area? You can run around here and come in anywhere you want to come in.
Mm-hmm.
But the water was there. See?
Okay.
That's the neat part of it.
That is
take
amazing.
people here. It's really awesome. It's a beautiful spot. Beautiful spot. By the way, I don't do bus tours anymore.
Okay.
I do tours for groups of 14 only, because then I can go places like this where big buses can't go.
Okay.
And
Amazing.
it's really the only way to tour. We can have so much fun in a small group.
I know. I might have to come do one of these. This sounds really fun. You'll have
This
to
is
invite
the
me out.
Pollock work walking in. This dirt path was the limestone covered area walking in. You can see the mound to the left, the mound to the right, and you got to go in the spring here or the fall. Otherwise, it's so thick you can't
get in.
appreciate what you're looking at.
So
Because it's wild.
So that limestone path, why is that gone? Was that intentionally removed? How did he know it used to be there? Did it erode away?
Most of it is still here. It's under the dirt.
Okay, so it's just underneath.
They dug down to see it, and then they covered it.
Okay.
Right now, but I'm going to show you more. Hold on. That's where it was at. Now, I'm taking pictures. This is the Pollock Earthworks. That's the berms. I'm going to take Photoshop, and I'm going to stick 2 towers, one on each side of the doorway, and I'm going to put the wall in place to help you visualize better. Okay. I'm on top. You can see how high it is from the bottom.
Oh,
right?
wow.
It's big. This, like I said, this is untouched. It hasn't been screwed up. Okay.
Amazing. Okay.
All right. Now check this out. How's that?
Oh, cool. So that's what they were dealing with.
This is the same photograph. These are the actual trees. It's the same photograph. See that tree? It's still here.
Yep.
Trees in the back are still there. I'm just getting rid of the stuff in the front here. And everything had limestone covering up here, so they couldn't also retard digging down. And here's your pathway walking in. Now, I put a door here. We have no idea what this looked like. This is a total guess. On the door. Total guess. But the towers, that is the size. That is the size of the tower. So that helps people see it. Now, here's another one. This is the south gate. We had a tower on each one of these bumps, and then you had the wall, and there would have been limestone covering all this out here. And there's 7 guys buried here underneath the tower. And that archaeology, I can even show you where they are. But here's that. You see?
Wow, that's so cool.
Now here they are together. Here they are together.
It's so intimidating. It's clearly, if it's anything, if that's like even close to accurate, it's clearly a defensive fort. Yeah.
These are not ceremonial sites. And I have to fight this because they have to decide something, because John Wesley Powell has told them nobody here, it's got to be somebody else. And this I like to. Now this is the rest of that fort. What I like about this is that archaeologists came in, Connolly and Essenpress, not the Ohio guys. These guys are out of Illinois. And they came in and they took 1, 2, 3, 4 samples just at random at these wall sections, 31, 55, 58, and 84. And they found wooden post molds on every spot. Yet you go here today, the head curator will tell you that these walls were not posted. I mean, it's just insane. It's just insane what they do this. And here's the dating that they put out. 390 BC all the way to 380 AD. This is total Book of Mormon timeline.
It is. Okay. Okay. Wayne, I have to tell you, I don't know. Do you want to stop here and we can come back and do more another time? Or
I can. Let me, because I can't see my next slide. Let me see where I'm at here.
Okay. Yep. You go right ahead. Yeah. We had to spend some time figuring out.
Let me finish the forts. We'll stop at the
go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. This is Carlisle. This is the way it looks today. The wall would have been up here on that top. You see that top edge rolling along the trees? Okay. There's a lot of dirt left there, but the stone is gone. There's 3 communities here around Carlisle, and every community took the stone off this fort to build their pioneer homes, fireplaces, chimneys, foundations, whatever. And everybody knows that. That's where the stone is. So what I'm going to do here, I put the walls and the towers in. Now, no soldier is going to allow trees to be this close to the walls. These trees in the front here have to go. Just like you said, in the back here. See these trees? The same trees, but they got to go.
Well, they used them to build the forts, right?
I'm going to take the trees away.
There
you go. Photoshop. Isn't it fun?
Yes, it is fun. And it's amazing.
Yeah. Now that makes sense.
And it could have even been, you kept the crookedness of the top of that. It could have been smooth. It could have even been smooth, which is easier. Mm-hmm.
Here is a massive, massive help. Scientists, Ohio University, looking into caves. They look at not stalactites, but stalagmites, the one that stand up from the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Now here, there's a carbon record built in that stalagmite and stalactites. Just like right now, we go up into, well, either Antarctica or North Pole, and you take cores of the ice. They can tell the snowfall, how much carbon was in the air when that snow came down. Right here, they're telling us this stalagmite found in West Virginia cave showed a major change in the carbon record at 100 BC. Oh my gosh.
So huge.
Overall timeline, what's going to happen? A new study led by Ohio scientists suggests that early Native Americans left a bigger carbon footprint than previously thought, providing more evidence that humans impacted global climate long before modern times. Now, here's what's important. He begins at 72 BC, fortifying not just a couple of forts. What does it say in the Book of Mormon?
Many.
All the cities throughout all the land.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you're talking a major construction project here. Now, what do you do with all the treetops when you get done, all the junk?
Burn them.
You burn it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the record to back it up right there.
Okay, I would need to talk to someone to see if that would impact the climate enough to, in a cave, affect a stalagmite. That, I mean, that's
It's the water dripping down through.
Oh, okay.
Water's
okay,
carrying the carbon footprint as it drips down through.
Okay.
And these scientists, that's their
and that's right there in that area. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Isn't that awesome? Let's see here.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this might be one of the last ones. Remember, I told you about the big forts.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how big they really are, but this I didn't understand for a very long time, because it says now Nephi has been lost by the Nephites. The Lamanites now are inside, and in the Book of Mormon it tells you they lost a lot of men on that place of entrance, and so now they're all hanging out of the place because they know the Nephites want to get the fort back, so they're going to give it to them like they give it the other day, right? So it's nighttime. The Lamanites go to sleep. They don't put any pickets in the rest of the city. No pickets. Okay. So in the nighttime, what does Moroni do? He calls his men. They should march forth and to the top of the wall, and they're let down to the city by means of strong cords and ladders. Well, so in the morning, the Lamanites wake up, and here the Nephites they're in the same town, and the Lamanites then rush out of the place of entrance to get out of there. That's what they did.
Okay.
So they got Nephi back. And now I'm thinking to myself, how big is this place where two armies are inside the same fort?
It's big.
They don't see each other. I mean, think about that.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
So, I've never.
Here's one.
I love how much value and use you are finding out of the ward chapters in Alma, which you're right, kind of torment us as we're trying to read it.
Oh. No, you can't appreciate the size of this.
Wow. Okay.
This is very, very, very big. Well, here we've got 40 acres here, 27 acres here, 800-foot diameter here. I don't know how many acres, but here's a berm. Here's one of the berms.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
It's
now,
huge.
some of the berms were 30 feet high, not just 12.
Whoa.
Think about that. So where does the ditch come from on the outside? Well, they took that to make.
That's where the soil comes from. Okay.
Yeah. Here's another shot of us at the Great Circle. You can see it now. This here is a sacred site. This one is, and I know that. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Well, here is a painting of a city at Newark. This thing is walled on the outside. Let's just go over this right here. This is called the Octagon. This is called the Great Circle. This distance right here is 2 miles. As a bird, this is the same town.
It's huge. Okay.
2 miles. I'm trying to show you. All the way around, the circumference of the thing is 4 miles all the way around. So if the Lamanites were really that sloppy and they all hung out at, let's say, the Great Circle, and the Nephites came over into the Octagon, they didn't see them until morning time when they attacked them from the inside. These things are huge.
Yeah.
They're huge. And again, to show they had the math, they could build them the same size in different locations. They never varied. 40, 10, 27. Never varied. Math skills.
It is. They were very advanced engineers and architects.
Right.
The perfection of the
this
shapes.
Is not a Stone Age culture. We have been told that these guys are a Stone Age culture. Stone Age boys don't build stuff like this. I'm sorry, they don't do it. They don't have the math. They don't do it. And then here
Amazing.
this here is Sipe. Real quick here. Great Pyramid fits inside the square. Here's Stonehenge in that circle. Here's the Roman Colosseum.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I'll throw in the Stonehenge just for kicks. How's that?
That's how big they are.
Statue of Liberty. I'm sorry, Statue of Liberty.
Okay, that one, last one. These are huge.
Oh, yeah. And they match that Alma 64. It makes sense because of this. And then this one here, they call this built in a particular manner. And this is the only geometric like this. It's the only one. And yet it's called the Hebrew Hanukkah earthworks, even by academia. This is the Hebrew earthworks. The 1900s, 5 or 10, I don't have the exact year, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers came into Ohio and they leveled this whole thing. Took it out. Not there anymore.
Did they have a reason? Were they making it? Were they going to develop the land? What was the reason for plowing it?
It goes back to Manifest Destiny.
I mean, what would do you feel like it was a cover up? They were trying to cover up evidence.
Why would they not go and level all the geometrics?
Wow.
Somebody was just, oh, that's got to go. That's got to go. Whatever. I don't know. But here, you see the lamp in the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
See the lamp?
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got some special marks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Pretty cool, huh?
Very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
good place to stop.
Okay.
I got a whole lot more.
Okay. So
if you want to have me back, I can keep you busy for a long time.
Okay. Well, I want to hear from everybody. I want to know what everybody thinks because I think this is amazing. It's so fun. I do hope that people will do, I like to bring critical thinking to it. More, not that you haven't, just I have to be convinced by looking at what's being said on both sides and what the arguments are. But I will say that, like I said, I've just kind of thought this is really interesting, but haven't delved into it. And so this is something that maybe we need to delve into now because it is fascinating. I want to ask you, are there arguments that say the Hopewell were a civilization, but we know they're not the Nephites, that are based in things other than, come on, angels and golden plates and prophets are not good archaeological evidence? Are there stronger arguments than that?
No.
So have you seen anything that's made you go, oh, how do I explain that? As you've been doing this work.
I tell everybody, give me your best shot.
Okay.
I've seen so much in 34 years, girl. I told my wife the other night, I said, I don't think I can write a book. It's too much.
Too much. Yes.
There is so much stuff. Can I tell you just a quick story?
Yeah.
I know things can be moved with sound. Our military now is experimenting, and I don't know how the biggest object, but they can move objects with sound. Now, a friend of mine who is Jewish, her name is Anita Meyer, and I brought Anita out to one of Rod Meldrum's programs years ago, and she set up a box, and she's hooked up to it with a microphone, and if she said the alphabet like A, it makes a nice color design. B, color design, different, of course.
Okay.
Then she went and said the Hebrew alphabet right down the line. And every letter she said, that letter showed up on the box. It showed up.
So what was the magic that was making that happen?
Sound. It's the sound.
Okay.
What the scriptures tell us, by the word of his mouth, all things were created. So now, years pass by. One of my subscribers, he marries a gal from Alaska, an Inuit lady, native, and she's passed on. He's in his high 80s. He's I got to tell you this before I die because I know you're going to love this. He said, I was up there with my father-in-law, my wife's dad, and talking about the old days when they used to go out and harpoon whales in those 40-foot boats with 10 guys. I said, you guys are crazy, and they'd roll that big old whale back, And I said, even if you brought the whole village down, how did you guys get that several ton whale up onto the shore so you could butcher it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ready for this? We sang. We sang a song.
Wow.
Sound.
Okay.
No.
I've heard theories because my understanding is we don't know how they built the Egyptian pyramids. So I've heard, and other earthworks, the Easter Island things. I have heard theories about that they were done by sound. I've heard that from
Right.
other.
And Solomon's
Okay.
Temple went up by sound as well.
Okay. Okay. So you think that
Fun
might
stuff.
go into?
Fun
Yes.
stuff.
It is. It's all fascinating. Now, Wayne, I want you to tell us about your conference coming up. Yep. Is that
Perfect.
good enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let people know we will be in Spanish Fork June 20 and 21 of this year. This is our 5th conference that we've held there at the Maple Mountain High School. Stadium seating, one big screen, air conditioned. Food trucks show up, between at lunchtime. We have a good time. We usually have a turnout between 800 and 1,000 people show up.
Okay.
We've only got 1,000 seats, so you got to come early because we had to turn some people away. 2 conferences ago. I don't want to do that. So you can get your tickets early. It's all on here. My site is ldsarchaeology.com, and you can sign up there for a ticket, or you can call my phone number, which is on here, 715-962-1422, and do it over the phone. Either way. But these are our speakers, and I got to tell you, up in the right-hand corner, you see Brian Utonen. He's an elder.
Okay.
Oh, I'm bringing him out along with the 2 guys in the bottom. Lon Krieger and Tom Elmore. They're coming out, they're archaeologists, ancient American magazine archaeologists, and tell us what they've got. And you're going to love it. It's stuff you've never seen before. And then I'm bringing out Anthony George, top middle. Anthony George, you can go and do all this Hopewell stuff, but if you want to focus just on Ohio, he's the expert for just Ohio. Man, he's got it down pat. It's really good. And he's never been out here before. So good stuff. And all these guys have something to tell. They're all great stuff. And my friend, Dr. Price, Kevin Price, he'll be showing the work that we've done at the temple site in Zarahemla, D&C 125, verse 3. The Lord tells Joseph, build me a city across from Nauvoo and call it Zarahemla. We have found the foundation. And you'll see Dr. Price. We'll show it to you. The foundation's there. The walls are there. It's there.
Okay, this is amazing. So this conference is focused on the archaeology.
We talk about archaeology, Book of Mormon, history, and nothing else. No politics. Well, there's a lot of things I could mention. We're not a potpourri. We focus on Book of Mormon, period.
Perfect.
Period.
Perfect. Well, I have to make one comment. I do see one woman, which makes me happy. And I'm hoping that maybe next year I can help you out with that, because you need more women on this.
We had 2, but she had a conflict, and I had to get a person to take her spot. No, we got gals that show up.
That's great. I'm only giving you a rough time because
by the way, I would invite you to come and have a table. We'd love to have you.
Okay, that's great. Well, I'm excited about this. I do think this is worth digging into and investigating. I just think that there is so much for us to learn in everything. And I'm actually thrilled with the research you're doing. I love your excitement about it. I love how broad spectrum you have gone with so many different avenues of investigation. Like I know, so just so people know, I don't even know how many slides were on the slideshow that Wayne sent me, but I'm guessing it was over 500. I don't know. And he just took a couple small sections of the extensive research that you've been doing for these 35 years.
When you see the presentation on the Jaredites, I love doing the Jaredites. It's so fun. It's so fun. I love doing the Jaredites.
Okay, well, do you know what? I am totally open to having you back. So I want to hear from people.
And invite me whenever, and I'll do what I can. I'd love to help.
Yeah, and this would be great because if you want to, in the comments, you can leave the critiques, the criticisms, the hard questions, the things that you want to push back on Wayne about, and then
absolutely.
Yeah, and we can ask the hard questions. That would be fun.
The one I get the most is weather.
Okay.
And piece of cake. I can blow you out of the water. No
With
problem.
the parrots, the parakeets was a good one.
That's just part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I would love to hear more about the
no problem. And I think the Vikings gave us the answer.
Oh, okay.
900 AD. Yeah. You got to go broad, man. You just can't you can't walk around like this.
Yep, there's the cliffhanger for everyone. So,
Right.
Wayne, thank you so much for everything that you have done for bringing this to us. I will be excited about this conference. I think it looks very interesting. I always approach things with an open mind. So this is
You'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot. Trust me. The people are very genuine. You'll love Bruce Porter, David Hawking. I mean, they all got something to say. Jeffrey's got something new to lay on the members, and I know what it is, and it's awesome. So,
okay. All right.
Come.
Well,
it's a good time.
Okay, I will plan on it. Thank you so much for
Thanks
coming.
for inviting me.
Yep, and I'll look forward to talking to you again.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Another shout out to Wayne. Thank you for coming and sharing a small portion of your research. I will be interested in looking into this more. I do really want to hear people's objections and questions and what they would like me to ask if we have Wayne on again, and let me know what you think about that. Again, thank you so much for sticking along on this journey of trying to discover more and more truth. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.